Think about something you interact with every single second of every day, but almost never actually see. I'm talking about the air. And today, we're going to dive into a pretty amazing tech revolution that's completely changing how we understand this invisible world all around us. Let's get into it.
You know, every breath you take is a direct connection to the world right around you. But here's the scary part. What if that world, that very air, is carrying a threat you can't even see? That's the deal with air pollution. It's this silent, sneaky risk that's with us pretty much 24/7. When you're commuting, just playing in a park, even when you're inside your own home. It is literally everywhere, and it affects every single one of us.
And I'm not just being dramatic here. Get a load of this statement from the World Health Organization. They are literally putting the health risks from air pollution in the exact same category as things like an unhealthy diet or even smoking. Think about that for a second. That's huge. It just goes to show you how absolutely crucial it is to know what's in the air we're breathing. The stakes? Yeah, they really couldn't be higher.
Okay, so if the stakes are that high, let's really try to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this invisible crisis. How does this threat actually ripple out and become this massive global health problem?
Honestly, the numbers are just staggering. We're talking millions of premature deaths every single year. It's a huge risk factor for some of the deadliest diseases out there. Heart disease, stroke, lung cancer, you name it. This is not some far-off abstract issue. It is a real, primary driver of public health all over the world.
All right, you can't really fight an enemy you don't understand, right? So let's get into it. What exactly are we dealing with here? Let's break down the science and decode what's actually in the air we're all breathing.
The core science behind all of this isn't exactly new. It's been around for decades, laid out in these, pretty classic textbooks. This is the stuff that gives us the basic playbook, our fundamental understanding of all the chemical and physical gunk that's floating around us.
And basically, all that research breaks down air pollution into a few main buckets. You've got your sulfur and nitrogen compounds, think stuff from burning fossil fuels. You've got carbon compounds, like carbon monoxide. But the one we're really going to zoom in on, because it's so important for our health, is something called atmospheric particulate matter.
Specifically, we're talking about something called PM 2.5. Now that 2.5 is all about its size, 2.5 micrometers or smaller. That sounds tiny, and it is. To give you some perspective, imagine a single human hair. This stuff is about 30 times smaller than that. And its tiny size is exactly what makes it so dangerous. These little particles are so small they can sneak right past your body's natural defenses, get deep into your lungs, and even get into your bloodstream. And from there, they can cause all sorts of damage.
Okay, so if we know what this stuff is, and we know it's super dangerous, the logical next step would be to track it everywhere, right? Well, that's where things get tricky. This has always been the biggest hurdle, what we call the measurement gap.
For years, the gold standard for measuring air quality has been these big, clunky machines called reference grade monitors, or RGMs. Now, don't get me wrong, they're super accurate, incredibly reliable. But, and it's a big but, that precision comes with a massive price tag. They cost a fortune, they're a headache to operate, and they need a ton of infrastructure.
So what's the result of all that cost and complexity? Well, it means there are hardly any of them around. Most cities, even big ones, might only have a handful. I love this analogy. Imagine trying to figure out the weather for your entire city with just one thermometer sitting in the main town square. Sure, you'd get one super accurate reading for that one spot, but it tells you absolutely nothing about what's happening a few streets over or across town.
So that leaves us with a really big question, right? If our tools are this limited, if our vision is so restricted, how can we ever hope to get a real clear picture of what we're all breathing? And maybe more importantly, how do you manage a problem you can't even properly measure?
Well, this is where the story gets really interesting, because a technological breakthrough is starting to provide an answer, and it's sparking nothing short of a revolution in how we see the air.
So here's the game changer. You've got the old way, a few super expensive, super accurate monitors. And then you have the new way, tons and tons of low-cost sensors. Now, any one of these little sensors might not be as perfectly accurate as the big guys, but that's not the point. The point is, they're so affordable, we can put them everywhere. It's a total shift in thinking, away from a few perfect data points to a huge, dense network of really useful data.
So what does that actually mean in practice? Let's go back to that weather analogy. The old way was that one thermometer in the town square. The new way? It's like giving a thermometer to every single person in the city. All of a sudden, you don't just have one number. You have a living, breathing, real-time map of what's happening everywhere. That is the power of this sensor revolution.
Okay, so we've got this incredible new toolkit. The question is, what can we actually do with it? What kind of doors open up when you can suddenly see the air with this kind of insane detail?
I mean, the possibilities are totally transformative. We can finally fill in all those massive gaps between the old monitors. We can pinpoint pollution hotspots block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood. We can give researchers way better data for health studies, and we can make air quality forecasts way more accurate. But the bottom line is this: it's not just about more data. It's about getting data you can actually do something with.
And this is so much bigger than just the science, you know? This tech literally puts power back into the hands of communities. For the very first time, we can clearly see and prove that the air quality in one neighborhood might be way different than another. It gives regular people the hard data they need to stand up, get involved, and demand change. It's a democratization of data. Everyone gets a seat at the table.
So where do we go from here? What does the future actually look like in this new era of clean air awareness?
I think the biggest change, the fundamental shift, is this. Air quality stops being some abstract, color-coded map you see on the news for 5 seconds. Suddenly, it becomes personal. It's about the air on your street, at your kid's playground, right this very minute. And that changes everything. It turns our relationship with the environment from something we just kind of put up with to something we can actually interact with and make decisions about.
And that leaves us with one last, and maybe the most important question. For so long, we've kind of had an excuse, right? We can't fully see the problem, it's too complex. Well, that excuse is evaporating. This technology is making the invisible visible. So the big question isn't, what can we know anymore? The question is, now that we know, what are we going to choose to do about it?